plan for after these 3 books? Are you going to continue writing?
Absolutely. I've actually already written another book, the one that would come out after the Winterhouse trilogy. It actually is kind of a mystery. I've discovered I really like codes and puzzles and mysterious situations and reclusive, mysterious individuals. And the book that I've written after Winterhouse has all those elements, but it doesn't have sort of the magic in it that Winterhouse does. I made it completely realistic. And it's set in a town kind of like Savannah, Georgia. My wife and I visited there a few years ago and kind of fell in love with it. And they have these beautiful town squares. And I just started thinking it'd be kind of interesting if there was a mystery the kids got involved in that had something to do with decoding something around those town squares, and they look into things. I won't give more away, but that's kind of the essentials of the story.
When that comes out, would you be willing to come back on the show?
It would be my absolute pleasure. That would be a lot of fun.
That would be wonderful.
You've been nominated for the Agatha. What else is upcoming for you? Do you have any event or book signings or anything you'd like our listeners to know about?
I do, actually. I have some local events at bookstores here that live outside of Seattle a little ways. And I do some nice school visits, and I've got a few of those coming up. And I do some Skype things with classes around the country. In addition to the honor of being a nominee for the Agatha Award, I was also nominated for the Edgar Award with the Mystery Writers of America. And so I'll be going to that event and that banquet. It's about a week before the Agatha events in Maryland. So those are some things that are upcoming. And then hopefully summer, I'll just be able to get a lot of writing done. I've got a few sort of writing endeavors I'm looking forward to really jumping into. And then maybe in the autumn, I'll have some more tours of schools. I've been able to tour a number of schools around the country in support of Winterhouse and the sequel, The Secrets of Winterhouse. So it's been fun. Mostly, though, I like to be here in my little room here at my house and write. That's the most enjoyable thing of all, outside of connecting with the readers.
Are we going to be able to meet you at Malice this year?
Well, I definitely hope so. I'm still trying to make my arrangements. Like I say, that I've got this thing in New York City the week before, and then I was committed to an event in Chicago, which ends just a day or two before Malice Domestics, and so my hope is then I can pop over that way. So I'm still trying to arrange that, and I'm very hopeful that will come through, because that would be quite a thrill to be there and meet you and all the other great folks.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for agreeing to be on our show.
I really enjoyed talking to you. Again, thank you so much for inviting me to join. It's great to talk about books, and it's great that you guys are out there promoting great books and encouraging people to pick them up and give them a read. So huge kudos to you guys.
And it's also very important to us that we encourage younger children to start reading and continue, and especially in the mystery genre. We're just thrilled that you have put out such a great book.
Well, I sure appreciate that, and I definitely agree with you. The middle grade years, that's when a love of reading can really be cemented. Definitely was that way for me. So anything that encourages kids to read at that age and maybe not get too distracted by all the other things out there that can draw their attention away is all to the good. So I'm glad that's a priority for you guys as well.
I have a granddaughter just in that age bracket. She's going to love these books, I'm sure.
Well, I hope she does, and I hope whatever book she picks up she enjoys, because reading's the foundation, so that's good for her.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Ben, well, thank you so much, and we hope that we get to meet you at Malice or one of the other events, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to our paths crossing, and thanks again for having me on your show.
Thanks, Ben. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Our third interview is with Shari Randall. Enjoy.
Today with Shari Randall. She is an Agatha Award nominee for her first novel in her Lobster Shack Mysteries. Curses Boiled Again is the first book in that series. So welcome, Shari.
Thank you, ladies. I'm very happy to be here.
Our first question is, how did you react when you found out you were nominated?
In a word, I was stunned. I'm still stunned, to be honest with you. When I got the phone call, I was sitting on the couch watching the live version of Rent that was on TV when the phone rang, and I glanced quickly at it, and I didn't recognize the number, so I thought, oh, it's a telemarketer. And then I had a wait a minute moment when I realized the call was coming from Bethesda, Maryland, which is the home of Malice Domestic. So of course I scrambled and called back and had a nice conversation with Janet, and then had a nice celebratory glass of wine with my husband and danced around the living room a little bit. I still can't quite believe it.
I saw in your bio that you like to dance, so that's not surprising.
No, I'm known to just break out and dance sometimes. Watch out. It's embarrassing to my children.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
This is always such a hard question. You just don't know where to start. Growing up, I was the kid who always had her nose in a book, and I still do. And you mentioned dancing. I did take dance classes when I was a little girl. I started with ballet, of course. Even then, I knew I was not good enough to make it a career, but I kept that love for years, and I've even dragged my husband to ballroom dancing classes. But books have just been a real theme throughout my life. I've always volunteered in libraries since I was in high school. Then after college, I worked at my hometown paper. My husband's in the Coast Guard. After we married, we moved to Boston. I worked in publishing. Then I got my master's in library and information science and worked in children's services at, I'll give a shout out to Kingstown Library in Fairfax County, Virginia, a job I just adored. We have two wonderful girls who like to travel as much as I do. The writing is just this kind of dream that I didn't even know I had, to be honest with you. Like I said, I love writing. I love reading. I think I've written all along, but I just never thought of myself as a writer. So having this opportunity to do a series has really just been a wonderful new chapter.
How did you get started and what drew you to the mystery genre?
I've always loved mysteries. I mean, of course, like so many other people, especially women, I just grew up on a diet of Nancy Drew. She is sort of the gateway drug to mysteries for so many of us, I think. And then I just fell into mysteries. My parents have an antique store in Meriden, Connecticut. I'll give them a shout out, Fairweather Antiques. Growing up, there were always boxes and boxes of books around our house. Always tons of Agatha Christie paperbacks. So I think I just grew up surrounded by mysteries. I think that was just the appeal for me. I don't remember even reading any other genres, to be honest with you. Definitely, I've just always been a mystery lover. And it's so funny. When I wrote my main character, Allie Larkin, in the Lobster Shack Mysteries, I thought she would be just like Nancy Drew because I'm such a Nancy Drew lover. But actually, she's more of a Trixie Belden. Surprised me. She's so much more impetuous than Nancy would ever be.
We talk about this over and over again. We're so fascinated how these characters come to be, and it does seem like they decide what they're going to be. You have to follow their lead.
Absolutely. I'm not even 100% sure where Allie Larkin came from when I started writing. It's just there she was. Unfortunately for her, I broke her ankle, so she couldn't dance anymore. Still feel very guilty about that. When the writing is going really well, the characters do take over. And that's the great thing about writing and the kind of scary thing about writing, for me especially. I don't plot a lot. So that's a little scary. You just sit down sometimes and just trust that the story is going to take you where it needs to go.
The pants writer.
Absolutely. Actually, somebody told me once there are plotters and pantsers who write by the seat of their pants. But then I heard there's another kind called a puzzler. And I think that's what I might be. I tend to write in scenes. For example, when I started the first book, I knew where it was going to end. I had that scene very clearly in my mind. And I knew some high points along the way. So for me, it was a question of following the road, which I didn't know, to those points and linking them together, which is totally weird, right?
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard that type of writer. That makes sense.
But it really does make sense. I like that.
Thanks. Maybe it was watching too much television when I grew up, but I just really think in terms of a scene. And then you just have to make sure the connective tissue between them really works.
Sitting here thinking of other authors who would fall in that category, and there's quite a few actually that I would classify them. I'm kind of glad you gave me that other category.
Hey, I was glad to hear that too, because I just thought, oh man, I am so weird. I wish I were more of a plotter. I'm actually working on that. That's something I'm aspiring to.
We're nominated, so it must be working out.
So what advice would you give to other aspiring authors now that you've made it big?
Honestly, the one thing I always tell people is to join Sisters in Crime. Sisters in Crime is a writers organization that supports and promotes women authors. But guys, you can relax because men are also welcome to join. We have Sisters and Misters. They offer classes and networking and mentoring. I just don't even know if I would be writing without them. I think opened a lot of doors for me when I was starting out because I had absolutely no idea how this publishing stuff worked. And it was just so fortuitous that When I worked in the library, I applied for the Sisters in Crime grant. They give a We Love Libraries grant once a month to a library in the United States. It's great. It's $1,000. So please, if you're listening and you're a librarian, apply for the Sisters in Crime We Love Libraries grant. So my library won it. I applied, and 3 authors came to present the check. We just started talking. They mentioned what they did, and I had been writing some short stories for fun, and they mentioned that they had an anthology contest. And so they encouraged me to enter in one of my short stories, and I did on a lark, and my story was chosen for the anthology, which really was thrilling. And then after that, I started going to meetings, and they really help you learn the nuts and bolts of publishing and writing. Just a great support group.
That's fascinating. We have a library here that I'm definitely going to tell them about that.
Please do. Yes.
Like you said, we've seen Sisters in Crime mentioned, and lots of the authors belong to the organization. No one has really expounded on how they work, so it's great to hear that.
They're just terrific. They even have an online group. If there isn't a Sisters in Crime group in your area, you can just go online and join that group. And they have discussions online, classes online. No matter where you are, you could hook up with Sisters in Crime. They do a lot of fun stuff. I remember the first meeting I went to, they had experts from Crime Scene Cleaning Company do a presentation. It was absolutely fascinating. And I remember thinking, these are my people that we were watching this and having lunch. They bring in experts, so you can really learn about everything related to mysteries and crime writing.
In real life examples, that's really fascinating.
You would not believe some of the things they've done.
Today we interviewed Ellen Butler. She was saying that in her chapter of Sisters in Crime, they went to forensic lab and they were only supposed to be there an hour, but they had so many questions that they were actually there for 3 hours asking, well, if we stab somebody, I didn't know what he was in for.
Probably not.
We actually are doing some episodes that are kind of like that. We interviewed a DNA expert to find out if fiction writers get it correct. And we're curious about that too.
Oh, yeah. That's really cool that you're doing that kind of thing too. It is fascinating. I've been doing Citizens Police Academy, and I have a friend who's been doing the FBI Academy, which is really interesting. Just all the stuff going on that we have no idea about.
Now, we know you're going to be at Malice, and we're so looking forward to meeting you. What other events do you have coming up?
Coming up, let's think. Of course, I'll be at Malice Domestic in May, and then in June, I'll be at the American Library Association Conference in Washington, D.C. I'll be signing my latest book, which is called Drawn and Buttered. Yes, they have a genius at St. Martin's who comes up with these funny titles. So I hope if anybody's there, they'll come and say hello.
It's the one that the Library of Congress puts on?
No, I think that's an event in September. The ALA National is the American Library Association just puts together these huge conferences. This one, honestly, you ladies should go. I think they get close to 20,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And, oh my gosh. And they have, of course, there's a lot of library business happening there and stuff that is specifically for librarians. However, they also always have tons of authors, and the publishers love to be there. There's the exhibit hall where it's just booth after booth after booth of publishers. They have author signings. So you can just buy a ticket to that part.
When is that going to be?
I believe it starts on June 22nd, I want to say.
Exactly is it called again?
American Library Association Conference.
Okay, we're going to definitely check that out, because anything to do with libraries and books. We went last year to the Library of Congress.
The
Book
National
Fest.
Books Festival.
It
Yeah.
was wonderful.
Wow. Now, did they have that in the convention center last year?
It was.
Okay. Because I remember once it was just on the mall. It was outside. So I guess maybe that's better to be inside with air conditioning.
It took up the whole thing.
It was huge, and there were tons of people there. It was really nice to see so many people interested in reading still.
Yeah. It's so heartening because you always hear that people don't read anymore. And then you go to an event like that and there are thousands of people, which is so cool. If you go to the American Library Association Conference, bring tote bags because they give away a lot of free stuff. A lot of ARCs.
Well, Shari, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show. We have enjoyed our talk with you, and we so look forward to meeting you at Malice.
Oh, I enjoyed talking to you ladies too. I'll see you at Malice.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, great. Well, thanks. So nice to meet you ladies. I'll see you in Bethesda.
All right.
Okay.
Take care.
Oh, you too. Bye-bye.
And last but surely not least is Jane Turzillo. Enjoy.
This morning, we have the pleasure of speaking with Jane Ann Turzillo. She is the author of Wicked Women of Ohio. She's been nominated for an Agatha Award for Best Nonfiction. Welcome to the show, Jane. How are you this morning?
Well, I'm just fine. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be doing this.
Well, that's wonderful. We're thrilled to have you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm obviously a writer. My son was a baby, and I was a stay-at-home mom, and I wrote a novel, of which